Okay, I apologize for that. My phone ran out of storage. I keep forgetting to delete these videos after I upload. Anyways, I'm gonna start again. Just continuing the Dora first stream. My bad. Uh, Page 54. I'm sorry. I'm struggling with this whole filming myself. It's ridiculous. All right. Uh, okay. First dream, and again, for her first dream, I'll read it to you in a sec, and then we'll look at Freud's ability to interpret it, which is intellectually dazzling and imaginative and creative and virtuosic. And it's really why Freud is so highly uh, regarded as a critic of language and literature and symbolism and all these things that we associate with the study of literature and everything that you're learning in this class, all right? Just as we had the prospect, so it's 7 o'clock, you can hear the pans outside. Just as we had the prospect of casting light on an obscure part of Dora's childhood by using material that called for analysis, Dora told me that one night recently she had a dream, one she had had several times before in exactly the same way. A periodically recurrent dream was, of its very nature, particularly likely to arouse my curiosity. In the interest of the treatment, I could contemplate weaving this dream into the context of the analysis. I therefore determined to investigate the dream with special care. First dream. And I'm here on page 54, again, second paragraph. There is a fire in a house, said Dora. My father is standing beside me and wakes me up. I dress quickly. Mama wants to save her jewel box, but Papa says, I don't want to burn with my children. I don't want to burn with both my children because of your jewel box. We hurry downstairs, and as soon as I'm out of the house, I wake up. Okay, so you have to keep in mind, there's basically a scene here where she's lying in bed. There's a fire in the house. Her dad comes to wake her up, and her mom complains that they're not saving her jewels, okay? And then they run out of the house. It's unclear whether the jewels and the mom are safely taken out of the house, but Dora is, okay, and her father is. And she states later that probably her, in terms of her memories associated with this, experiences associated with this dream, probably her brother was there. Everyone is not what they seem, or they're more than what meets the eye in how she's explained it. So her father there is both her father and it's Air K. Air K, while they've been staying together at this lakeside place where he hits on her, he has come into her room and woken her up. He's, in love with her. He has a crush on her, however you want to put it. He's interested in what she's up to and what she's doing, and she's perceiving this all as a threat, essentially. Okay? So you have to think about that as an illustration of condensation, okay? An illustration of, so if we can go back to elements. The dream repeats a lot, which means it's important. Your mind's trying to tell you something. And if we talk about condensation, like one thing having more than one memory. You have the father here, Dora's dad, equals both himself and Air K. Okay? You have now another strange thing, and this is, again, we're talking about the condensation. Now, if we talk about the displacement, and this is where you'll be just like, okay, so for Freud, anything means anything. But no, opposites coincide in dreams, okay? So the condensation works by transposition into opposite. So the fire and her dad was worried about fires. They're staying in the forest. They don't have a lightning rod. Things catch on fire in forests, as you probably know from following climate change and the news and all this stuff, and how we're loading the dice for worse fires. Australia, last fall, for example, if everyone's forgotten with the current crisis. But okay, so transposition into its opposite. The fire then becomes the fire equals water. Water equals all kinds of problems in or traumas, recurrent issues in Dora's childhood. Bedwetting, uh, uh, childhood masturbation, and something she thinks licoraria. I won't spell it out because I'll fail to spell it correctly. But this vaginal discharge that a lot of girls have prior to their period or during their period, or especially before when you're first getting your period in puberty, and that Dora interpreted neurotically as a sign that she had inherited from her dad his sexually transmitted illness of syphilis, which she suspects he gave to her mom as well. Okay, so let's look at just briefly now this next passage. I want to show you. I mean, it's dazzling what Freud goes over and the conversation they have, and the extent to which, and again, other things that are transposed or that are symbolic, or that or really combine both the condensation and the displacement together. You might say this thing, the jewel box. The jewel box is women's genitals. You put something in there, the key, there's this symbolism, this metaphorical substitution, but there's also condensation. The jewel box is one that Dora has in therapy session one day. It's one that she associates with her mom in this dream. So the jewel box is something that's condensing all kinds of different memories and fantasies. Okay, and it comes from the dream. So again, things are not what they appear. You have, for every kind of element in the dream, you have multiple things underneath it in the memory behind the dream. And it's getting to those memories and what the dream is trying to say about them. What it is that you wanted as a person who's not comfortable with what they want necessarily. Okay? And you'll see Freud's going to lead up to a dazzling thing in the next dream, which is that the fact that Dora rejected RK, although you can read it as Freud's insensitive and just being kind of boorish and sexist and not giving people enough of a chance. There we go. Why did I do this before? Okay, so on the other hand, Dora was, according to Freud's reading, smacking his face not in rejection but in jealousy, that he had used the same pickup line on his children's governess, and that her conversations and friendship with the governess, she knew this, and it pissed her off when he tried to hit on her in the same way, because it meant he didn't really love her and he was just trying to seduce her. Okay, and that's where all her animosity towards him comes from in the same habits. But let's just skip ahead briefly to 72, and I'll read here for a couple pages and just show you Freud's ability to kind of sum things up. Okay. The dream, through the analysis of which we gained the preceding conclusions, corresponds, we found out, to a resolution of Dora's taken as she falls asleep. It therefore recurs every night until she has carried out that resolution, and reappears years later as soon as there is an occasion to take an analogous resolution. The resolution can be consciously put into words something like this. These are not the words Dora is saying in consciousness, but this is what her dream is effectively saying through this primitive language of pictures and puzzles, what Freud called the rebus-like structure of a dream. A dream won't tell you the word houseboat. It'll simply put a boat on top of a house, and you're like, what the fuck is that? But you're supposed to think in your mind, houseboat. Okay. Then here's the resolution. I must get away from this house where, as I have seen, my virginity is in danger. I will go away with Papa. This is the house where she's staying near this lake where the K's are also situated, and they're seeing each other frequently, and she's sensing danger there. Okay. Uh, and when I'm getting up in the morning, I will be careful not to be taken by surprise. These ideas find clear expression in the dream. They belong to a current that has come to dominate the conscious mind in waking life. We can guess a more darkly present train of thought behind them, corresponding to the opposite current. So there's nothing unconscious about her wanting to leave. Okay, she's fully aware that she's not comfortable being there, and she's telling her dad she wants to leave. Freud is getting now somewhere deeper and more mysterious. Uh, we can guess at a more darkly present, I'm on page 72, more darkly present train of thought behind them, corresponding to the opposite current, so that it has been repressed. It culminates, not, again, the current not to go back to father, but to go forward to a passionate affair, to marriage, whatever you want to call it, with Air K. Okay? Um, uh, Perhaps reviving her memory of the only kiss she had ever received from him. But according to the theory I developed in my interpretive dream, such elements are not enough to form a dream. A dream is not a resolution to be carried out, but a wish shown as fulfilled. Perhaps a wish from the dreamer's childhood. We have an obligation to see whether this idea is not refuted by this dream. And what is that wish here? It's to be protected by your father, but also to indulge in all these strange childhood neuroses of bedwetting, of masturbating, things that Freud associates with a later predisposition to the kind of illness that Dora now has, this neurotic, hysterical illness. The dream doesn't, in fact, contain childish wish material. Which at first glance stands in reasonable relation to the resolution of leaving Air K's house and the temptation felt there. Why do the memories of childhood bedwetting and the trouble her father took to keep her clean as a child surface? We can reply because it is possible to repress intense ideas of temptation only with the help of this train of thought, making her resolution to oppose those ideas dominant. The child decides to flee with her father. In reality, she is fleeing to her father in the fear of the man pursuing her. She revives a childhood love for her father to protect her from the recent love for a stranger. Her father is himself in part to blame for her present danger, having left her at the mercy of a stranger because of a love interest of his own. How much better it was when the same father loved no one but more than her, and went to the same trouble of saving her from the dangers that threatened her then. Her infantile, now unconscious wish to place her father in the position of the stranger has the potential to form a dream. If there has been situation that differed from the present only in the person represented, this becomes the main situation in the content of the dream. And who is she wishing for? Here it goes on. And there is indeed such a situation. Like Erke the previous day, her father once stood beside her bed and perhaps woke her with a kiss, as maybe Erke intended to do. Her resolution to flee from the house is therefore unable to form a dream in itself. It becomes able to do so when accompanied by another resolution supported by childhood wishes. So even this wish to leave is not a wish to just leave and go home. It's a wish to return to this earlier period in her development, this regression to childhood and to the Oedipal love for her father. Her wish to replace K by her father gives the dream its driving force. I'm reminded of the interpretation obliged me to see her intensified train of thought relating to her father's relationship with Fra K as a revival of the infantile love for her father in order to keep her repressed love for Air K still in the state of repression. This change in my patient's mental life is mirrored in the dream. I have set down some remarks upon the relationship. And anyways, he's basically making an argument here for, again, his manifesto for why he interprets things how he does and what he thinks dreams are about in a broader sense. And one thing he's telling you here is that why you have to go into the childhood arena to draw out the motivating wish for the dream is that's where the money is. And he uses that analogy to a capitalist. The child, the unconscious, has these wishes from long ago that form a sort of like capital, like money to be invested by the unconscious, desires to be invested into dreams, okay? and you have to have those desires, those in reservoir, in order to create enough interest in the unconscious to form a dream. All right, so I won't bore you too much with the rest of this, but I will just point out again that Freud's talking about these two fundamental things. These two fundamental features of dreams, that they combine elements into singular thing, combine different memories, experiences into one part of a dream. So the guy who comes and wakes her is both her dad and RK, that condensation. And then displacement, there's this transposition into opposites. So the fire in the dream actually refers to this phenomena that would have given her dad reason to wake up in the middle of the night and pick her out of bed and stuff. Bedwetting. Okay, bedwetting. And Freud's theory, not something I'm an expert in, not well confirmed in far as I know, is that bedwetting, the vaginal discharge, all this stuff had to do with her sexual precocity. She's advanced in her sexuality at a very young age, and she's masturbating when she's like 8, 9 years old. Okay, not uncommon, I suppose. All right, let's look. I'm going to come back at you with a video about the second dream in a second.